I want to welcome you to this week's broadcast of the CVC Home Service Success Network. It's presented every week by CVC Success Group. And what we're trying to do is bring ideas to you, different things you can implement in your business to help take the business to one that you actually dream of it becoming. So, anyway, today's topic came because I was listening to a noted speaker in home services. And he said something in here. And what he said was that the reason businesses do not sustain themselves, the reason they fail is with three words: their systems, their processes, and their procedures. And why these are key to prevent failures down the road, key to prevent those failures. And that's kind of what I wanted to speak on today. Ever since we've done this, we're heavily involved in and recommend development of systems and how to operate the business. And it's got to be every segment of the business. It's got to be in your hiring, your training, your onboarding, and you've also got to have a way to check the KPIs of your daily operations and make sure that they are being done successfully. So that's kind of what we wanted to roll around the table here today. A couple of years ago, I came up with a quote that's been used a lot of places that when there's a mistake in the business, there's one of three reasons why that mistake occurred. Number one, there is no system. Number two, the system is wrong. Or number three, someone simply did not follow the system. But if they didn't follow the system, it goes further. Is it because they don't have the intellect, the capacity to actually perform the task? Or is it because we never train them properly? So I'm going to start off with Cheryl. Cheryl, you and I were talking the other day about onboarding people, bringing them on and all that, about the hiring, the recruiting of what's going on out there. Does this require a system where we have to stay at it every day? Or is this something you just kind of let it fly and hopefully things will land in your lap?
Well, if you're waiting for it to land in your lap, more power to you. It doesn't come that way. It's a very organized thing, and it's something you've got to stay on daily. I mean, let's face it, when you're onboarding someone, you've got to run them through the complete onboarding system, or you may miss the fatal step. And the thing about it is, I think that's where a lot of the companies go wrong is the initial training and the initial onboarding. And like, we've always said the first day that the person's there is that's the day you need to make your impressions. That's the day you need to let them know what's going on. But then you've got to stay behind it with the onboarding. We even have on our platform, we've taken and worked out a process for the onboarding. And people just really don't realize how important it is. I mean, I can get them in the office all day long, but the problem is it's up to the company to keep them there.
Got you covered. Understand. So, do you think people are following the process as regards onboarding?
Certain times of the year, maybe. The thing about it, in busy season, no. They're usually, and I'm talking any company, when they're extremely busy, the onboarding goes out the window. They throw them to the wolves and they expect them to pick it up on their own. In the slower seasons, maybe yes, but I know of very few companies that are following them exactly and sticking with it and altering it to work as times change. And I think that's a detrimental thing. You assume because you did it this way 10 years ago, you can do it this way now. Onboarding changes just like everything else, and you've got to change with the systems and you've got to keep it updated. You've got to understand what it takes to get these people the knowledge and everything they need, the regimented form that you're going to put them in so they can become an intricate part of your company. They're not just little minions out there to dangle around. They need the knowledge, they need the systems. And then they need to be accountable for what they've been taught.
Yeah. And so, Josh, you're able to see the CRM, the Service Titan software that some of these companies are using. And when you look at this, it jumps out at you very evidently where we're falling between the cracks. We're not making the sales that we should make. We don't have the documentation that we should have. The systems are not perking along at a high level. What's your thought on this of the need for the systems, the processes, and the procedures to where we prevent failure of the company?
They're important. I mean, our company used to spend 3 days just to go through our handbook and how you interacted with the different programs and things like that day one. So it didn't fall by the wayside. So they knew where their manuals were and things like that. Because that was a day one cultural thing. Because as you will say, I got tired of people asking me the same questions over and over. So it became such a cultural point of our company that the onboarding was done in a certain way that they could do that. With that said, if you don't have, if you let's just say let's just something as simple as how to answer the phone written out, you're going to have 20 different ways of how that's being done, and one of them may be right, 5 of them may be right, none of them may be right. For me, when I started doing these, I started with the office people because they were the easiest for me to interact with on a regular basis. But I also knew, how the service techs interacted. So I could, we could build from there. That was how I built my core, was building it around how the office side interacted with people. And then we had a trickle down from there. But if you don't have anything, you can't hold anybody accountable on how they were trained, how they were going about the processes. You can't talk about how you expect them to say things when they're in the home. It just goes on and on and on from there.
So here's the question, Josh. If we have the systems and we have the processes and we have the procedures, if our employees are not following these, what's a manager to do?
Daily enforcement of them. And it's going to be the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but it's going to be every single day. You start getting nitpicky, and then eventually it's either the employee has to go or retrained. Those are some of your options.
Okay. So Cheryl, let me go back to you. But holding people accountable sometimes means we have to even make a decision for termination. Do you see people are very anxious, have anxiety about terminating employees because they're afraid that they're going to have a truck sitting still? What do you see when you talk to people?
When I talk to them, there's a huge amount of people that are afraid to fire. The thing about it is, it's kind of like, my bottom line will change, my income will change. The company can't afford, and I hate when they use that, the company can't afford to let them go. But the good or bad part about it is they can't afford not to, because they're ruining the other people in the company. But yeah, I talk about that on a weekly basis to someone about, if they're not working, if they can't be made or shown how to do it, if they can't learn it, either you're going to have to find them a job that fits their critique, or you're going to have to let them go, or you're just going to carry this person forever.
Yeah, you're going to become that's part of the problem, and it is tough. But I know in the present day, we're seeing people that their gross is not as high as it was a year ago, but because they've made the changes in the operation, their bottom line net is actually higher. And that's where you really got to look at. It's not the gross. Gross is simply vanity. The bottom line net, as we've talked about, that's what your goal needs to be to get there, to build a scalable, replicatable, or a business that you're going to sell one day. It's going to all be up to that bottom line. So, Josh, you got any additional thoughts on this about the need for systems, processes, and procedures?
Well, as Cheryl was just elaborating on, as I saw in my own business, when you had a sacred cow, like in the service department, once we got rid of that person, our service department was able to grow. Other people were able to flourish. You found out, there was a lot of problems with that person that was just holding other people back from growing. So that can be, and I've seen it in other businesses as well. That sacred cow is, really dragging down a company. So if there's for some reason, someone your company's not growing, and you've got a sacred cow, it may be something to look at.
Yep, there can be no sacred cows on the staff, and that goes right to the owner. The owner, the manager, they have to be producing also towards this, and they can't drag the group down. Just can't do it. So, Cheryl, what about you? You got any final words on this?
Well, I just like to impress to the people, if you're having a problem setting up your onboarding, get in touch with us. We can give you some easy ways to make that happen. But once you have it, it's up to you to make it work.
Right. The other thing that I would suggest that you do, if you're not doing it now, is set up. It's time to do an annual SWOT on your company. And what's a SWOT go over? In a SWOT, it goes over your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. I'm actually doing a lot of those at this point in the year because we do them starting in late winter, through the spring, in through the summer, and some even in the fall every year. So stop where you look, because you got to see what your weaknesses are. You got to concentrate on how do we turn weaknesses into strengths for the company. So if you want to know more about the SWOT process, how that works, hey, reach out to me here. Again, if you want help with your hiring, your onboarding, reach out to Cheryl. She's there. If you want help with your SOPs, your systems, your CRM, your software, then Josh is your guy for it. Reach out to him. You see all of our email addresses right here on the screen. And with that, we're going to thank you for joining us today. This wasn't a super long episode today. We've talked about these things many times. I just thought it was time to have a repeat of this because repetition sometimes is what it takes for the message to get through. So appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next week on the next episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. Have a fantastic weekend. Hope everything goes fantastic for you. Talk to you next time.